Hello there. In this video I will discuss how to find vacuum leaks on your motor. This particular motor has a carburetor, but these methods apply to any motor. Fuel injected, doesn't matter, any type of motor. Okay, one way is to grab any vacuum line hose coming out of your motor, get a cigar, put it in your mouth, and blow on it. Oh god. Anyway, you blow on it and all the smoke will go through the motor and it'll come out through any vacuum crack that you have, any hose that's there's a hole in it. You'll see the smoke come out of there. That's one indication you have a vacuum leak. Second way of doing it is you grab a propane torch, you turn it on, not that way. Anyway, you turn it on without putting a flame to it. And let the gas go through all the, wherever there's a gasket or whatever you think is the vacuum is coming from. If you hear a hissing noise, put it over there. And your idle should change when you have the motor running. And you can also do this with WD-40, brake cleaner fluid. Some people use carburetor spray. Be careful of the hot exhaust manifold. You don't want carburetor spray going over there because it's flammable. Anyway, you could use any of these methods. So first thing I would do is you grab every single hose coming out of your motor, vacuum line, go through your carburetor or fuel injection. You see anything going into the vacuum, either your intake ports or stuff like that. You grab that line and you plug it. You take it out, you plug it. If the motor starts behaving better, back to normal, then you follow that line. There's some sort of crack or something going on with that line. You're using vacuum. Now, one of those examples of those lines would be your vacuum booster hose. You could take that off, plug it, and see if your motor runs better. Also, plug it from where you're taking it off, from the motor side. And like I said, if your motor behaves better, then that's your source of the vacuum leak. Also, you could go around there with your the WD-40 or your brake cleaner fluid, starter fluid. You could also use to go around there to see if there's any idle changes when the motor's running. Other thing you could do is you could do the same test on the heater control valve for your heater, the door inside. It runs a vacuum. Take that hose off, plug it on the motor side, and see if your engine runs better. If it does, you trace the whole vacuum circuit. Okay. Another thing to do is this is also less likely to happen. You could have a crack somewhere within the carburetor main body, wherever the air passes through, or the base, the carburetor base. Or in this case, you could also have a vacuum leak where the carburetor base connects with the intake manifold. In this case, this particular one, I have a phenolic spacer, so I could have there's a gasket here and a gasket underneath. So I have to check all around both gaskets, all around, to see if there's any vacuum leaks. The same thing applies for your fuel-injected motors. You have upper plenum, sometimes a lower plenum. You have a gasket in between. Anywhere you have a gasket, you got to run that test to see if the idle changes when the motor's running. Now, you can also hear vacuum leaks. Go around, with the hose into your ear if it's like a tight spot. To see if anything, if the noise gets louder, then your hissing noise, then you're close to the vicinity where you have an intake manifold leak or a vacuum line leak or whatever the case is. You could also have a crack in your intake manifold plenum. This is less likely also, and this could also cause a vacuum leak and go through all the troubleshooting around there. There's a gasket where the intake manifold meets the heads. Then that you could also have a leak. So go around around the whole intake manifold to check for leaks. Also the china walls, the front and back, all around the whole manifold to see if you have any leaks. This is also very important, which a lot of people don't know how to test. Now this is how you do it. The intake manifold gasket could leak on the inside of the motor, and you can't get to it. There's two ways of figuring that out. One way is you take the breather off your valve cover, you put your hand on it, and have somebody rev the motor. If you feel a suctioning effect over here on your hand, that means the engine is sucking in the blow-by from the crankcase. So your intake manifold gasket is bad on the inside. Now another way to test that is you take a car out for a spin. You put this back on, of course. You take a car out for a spin, and if you make a sudden left, and you see blue smoke coming out of the tailpipes, that means there's oil coming inside the combustion chamber from underneath this gasket. So your left side of the gasket's bad and the inside of the motor of the intake manifold gasket. Now, same thing on the right side. If you make a hard right and you see blue smoke coming out of your tailpipes, that means your right intake manifold gasket is bad on the inside. So you gotta change that one. But of course, when you change that one, you gotta take the intake manifold off and you gotta change both. Also, don't forget, take a look at my intake manifold video. It'll tell you exactly what to do with that gasket to prevent any future leaks. And, well, one trick I used in that video was to use gasket sealer on all the intake ports when you put the gasket back on both sides. And I think that's about it. A lot of this stuff is also using common sense, so a lot of that stuff goes a long way just by troubleshooting yourself. If there's any unique things you have on your motor, also go around that and make sure there's no vacuum leaks on those stuff. I hope this helped, and please subscribe to my video. You can also ask me questions underneath. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.